All right, I'm back again. It's Mr. Jackson, the bug guy. And again, we're not talking about bugs today. We're going to talk about the world of reptiles and amphibians. And we're going to talk about some really common species of reptiles and amphibians that hopefully some of these you would not find here in Oregon, but certainly if you go to a zoo, you're going to find a lot of these animals also. And we're going to talk about how they're built and a couple of the differences between reptiles and amphibians also. All right, so the first one that I want to talk about, this is one that confuses a lot of people. It's called a turtle. Now, a lot of people think that a turtle is an amphibian because usually amphibians like frogs and toads, you find them in the water. But that's usually where you find turtles too. But a turtle is a reptile. And the reason that a turtle is a reptile is because of that shell. The shell is made up of these great big overgrown plates. They're called scales. And it's the same type of scales that cover the body of a lizard or a snake. That's what makes a turtle a reptile. But the shell has got a top and a bottom. And the really neat thing about a turtle, if you've ever seen a turtle disappear inside of its shell, the head goes in, the two back legs, the two front legs, looks like a giant rock, right? And that's how turtles protect their bodies, by pulling everything inside of their shells. Now, we know that turtles don't move very fast, but this is a model of a sea turtle. And believe it or not, when a sea turtle is out in the open ocean, you can actually water ski behind the body of a sea turtle. They can swim about pretty close to 35 miles per hour. So you could actually water ski behind the body of a turtle. And they don't move very fast on land. On land, they're up there with the snails and the slugs. So they're not very fast at all. But being a reptile, the turtle has got a very close cousin. And this is the one that most people are afraid of. It's called a snake. And this is a model of a rattlesnake. Now, in Oregon, we've got 22 different types of snakes. And believe it or not, of those 22, the only one that can hurt you is the rattlesnake. That's it. The rest of them, garter snake, bull snake, rat snake, gopher snake, they can't possibly hurt you. They do have little tiny teeth, but they don't have the venom. So if they were to bite you, they can't possibly hurt you. And they don't have the rattle, so that's an easy way to tell a rattlesnake from any other type of snake. But any of those snakes that I just mentioned, the garter snake, the rat snake, bull snake, gopher snake, if you do pick them up, if you cradle their head and you cradle their body, you know what they'll do to you every single time? They'll poop on you every single time. It's a defense. And if you've ever smelled snake poop before, it smells exactly like a skunk. And that's why they poop, because that smell will hopefully scare away a predator. But most people don't know that most snakes are completely blind. They've got two eyes, but most snakes, they can't see more than a couple of inches in front of their head. And did you know that most snakes are deaf? They have ears, but they can't hear. But the best part of any snake is that tongue. And anytime you've ever seen a snake in the wild or a pet store, petting zoo, the tongue is always going 1,000,000 miles an hour. That's where he gets all of his information from. So I want to give you some advice. If you're walking around at home and you see the body of a snake sticking out of a bush, but you cannot see the tail to identify it as a rattlesnake, all I want you to do is just stand perfectly still. Because if you don't move, you are not going to give that snake any information. He can't see you and he can't hear you. And most of the time, he's going to get so tired of waiting for you, he's just going to disappear. But most people, when they find a snake, the first thing they would do is to scream. Now, if you scream at a snake, the vibration of your voice, it goes through the air. The snake picks up that vibration on his tongue, and he knows where you are. He's going to come check you out, right? Most people might also try to run. And if you run from a snake, you have just made a cloud of dust on the ground. The snake picks up that dust on his tongue. He knows where you are. He is curious. Chances are he's going to come check you out, right? And then the third thing that a lot of people do, they panic. And if they start to sweat, those little droplets of sweat, they go through the air, the snake picks up that moisture on his tongue. He knows where you are. He's going to come check you out. So that's my best advice. If you find a snake, just stand perfectly still. Stand there and watch him, and 9 times out of 10, he's going to get so tired of waiting for you to move, he's going to disappear. That's my best advice. Did you also know that most snakes, as they get older, they need to shed their skin? Now, when a snake's skin comes off, is he down to his underpants underneath? No. He's always got 2 more layers of skin underneath ready to be shed at any given time. Snakes are amazing animals, but most people are freaked out by snakes too. But another cousin to a snake, another type of reptile that you find all over the valley here, it's called the lizard. And lizards are a very close cousin to the snake because he's got the 2 front legs and the 2 back legs, and his body, it kind of looks like a snake. But did you know that there's only 2 venomous lizards in the entire world? One of them lives in Arizona, right here in the United States, and the other one that lives way over in Africa. So that means that the lizards that live right here in Oregon, like a bluebelly or a skink or an alligator lizard, the only way that they have to protect their bodies, if they are threatened in any way, they break off their tail on purpose. And after that tail is broken off, because it's full of muscle and blood, it will continue to twitch for about 15 minutes. It'll keep walking around. And that gives the body of the lizard a chance to escape. And the cool part is, he can always grow that tail back. Isn't that a good trick? There's a type of lizard in this world, this animal, he's got the power to change the color of his body. I know you know what it is. It's called the chameleon. So a chameleon is a type of lizard. He can change coloring depending on his surroundings. It's called camouflage, which is a pretty good trick too. There's another lizard in this world. This guy, he keeps a packet of blood right there behind his eye, and if he's attacked, he can squirt blood at the attacker. And hopefully that will scare away an attacker from attacking and eating the lizard. Lizards are really amazing animals. Most lizards, their hearing is better than your dog's. Lizards can hear noises that people and dogs cannot hear, but the eyesight of the lizard, it's about the same as people's. They can see roughly the same yardage that people can, but most lizards are colorblind. That means that they can't see all the same colors that you and I can see. But lizards are amazing reptiles too. And then you can't talk about reptiles without talking about the big boys. And the one in this hand over here, this is supposed to be a crocodile. The one in this hand, this is supposed to be an alligator. And the easy way to tell an alligator from a crocodile, if you look at the snout of the crocodile, you see how pointed it is right there. And the upper teeth, they stick down below the lower jaw. The lower teeth, they stick up above the upper jaw. If you are an alligator, your nose is kind of rounded off at the tip right there. And when he's floating in the water, his eyeballs and his nose holes, his nostrils, they stick up above the surface of the water. But other than that, they're a lot alike. The biggest crocodile ever captured was about 25 feet long. They live about 50 years. The biggest alligator ever captured was 20 feet long, and they live about 25 years. But other than that, the only part of their body that alligators and crocodiles use are their teeth. That's all they use for hunting and fighting, are their mouths. And if they lose all of their teeth in a battle, they cannot gum their prey to death. So if they lose a tooth, automatically they get a brand new tooth. It takes them 2 days to regrow a missing tooth. And during their lifetime, both crocs and alligators, they will usually burn through about 2,000 teeth. And that's a lot of trips from the tooth fairy, right? Yeah. Amazing reptiles, though, crocs and alligators. So now we're going to switch gears, and we're going to talk about the other side of the coin. We're going to talk about the world of amphibians. And the most common amphibian that lives here in the valley, it's called the frog. Now, frogs, they really don't have any way of protecting themselves other than to escape by jumping. But if you find a frog in your yard and you pick him up and hold him in your hands so he cannot escape by jumping, do you know what every other frog on earth will do to you to protect itself? He'll pee on you every single time. Frogs pee as a defense. That's how they get away from predators. But the frog is an amphibian, and because they're an amphibian, they develop differently than the reptiles do. Now, all reptiles, all amphibians, they all hatch out of an egg. Crocs, alligators, toads, frogs, salamanders, turtles, everybody comes out of an egg. When a baby turtle hatches out of an egg, it looks identical to its mom and dad. It's about the size of your thumbnail, but it's identical to its mom and dad. When a baby snake hatches out of an egg, it's identical to its mom and dad. It's about that big, kind of looks like a worm with eyes, but it's identical to its mom and dad. But when a baby frog hatches out of an egg, it doesn't look anything like its mom and dad. This is a baby frog. It's called a tadpole. And the amphibians, they have to go through a change of life. It's called metamorphosis. That means that they change from one type of an animal into something entirely different. So the job of the tadpole, it eats and eats and eats, and eventually it can't get any bigger. The last stage of being a tadpole, the back legs always pop out first. And then after a few days, the front legs, they pop out. The tail gets sucked up into the body. And then before you know it, he is identical to his mom and dad. So amphibians have to go through a change of life in order to look like their moms and dads. But aside from the frog, we have another type of amphibian that lives right here in the valley. And it kind of looks like a frog, but it's not. It's a little bit drier. The skin looks like it's covered with warts, but most importantly, this is a poisonous animal. It's called a toad. And maybe your grandma or grandpa has told you that if you touch a toad, you're going to get warts all over your skin. That isn't true. If you do touch a toad, you know what will happen to you? You'll get peed on all the time. But he is a poisonous animal. Right behind his eyes, he's got poison glands. And if you touch a toad, you've got that poison all over your hands. So do not put your hands in your mouth, okay? But the frog and the toad, being amphibians, they also have another type of cousin. And this is the most common salamander that lives right here in the area too. It's glossy black and it's got bright yellow dots all over its body. And usually if an animal has got bright warning colors on it, it's a warning. That's why it's there. And it is trying to tell a predator to back off and leave me alone because I am poisonous. Now, if you find a salamander in your yard, you can pick them up, you can love on them all you want, but when you're done, do not put your hands in your mouth because you've got his poison all over your hands. Okay? So those are the most common reptiles and amphibians that everybody knows. Hope you had some fun with this one too. Hope to see all of you again real soon, okay? Bye-bye.